All right, so as you can probably tell by the title of the video, this is a question and answer video. If you're being recommended this video and you have no idea who I am, don't click away. Well, maybe, but let me explain who I am first. So my name is Cody Engel. I am an engineering manager. Prior to that, I was a staff software engineer, and I make videos about the tech industry and really just want to help software engineers become the best software engineers they possibly can. If that sounds exciting to you, feel free, smash the like button. And with that, let's get into actually answering some questions. And I promise this is only the second time I've recorded this video, so hopefully the answers will be a little bit more concise. The first question is, what is the best advice you have for university students looking to get into software engineering in the form of full-time positions and internships? So, great question. The best advice that I have when it comes to that is, one, personal projects. If you're struggling to figure out what sort of personal project to do, find something that you're interested in. If there's a video game that you like, if you are a runner, if you like coffee, if you like alcoholic beverages, whatever it is, build something that is like a CRUD application, which CRUD stands for create, read, update, delete. Build an application around that. Make sure that you are pushing commits up to GitHub. Get familiar with version control and really just focus on that. Have one really good, solid project that you have up on GitHub. That will help you a lot. One, you'll be able to talk to it in an interview setting. And then the other one is it just looks good on a resume. And actually, I think there's another question that sort of ties into that. So let me get into that one, which is asking, what is the most important thing someone getting into the industry can present to recruiters to get their first job? So pretty similar, and I was kind of like dovetailing into that anyway. So you want to have the ability to talk to a recruiter before like applying to the job, essentially, because when you apply just by submitting your resume to a job site, a recruiter is going to spend 6 to 7 seconds looking at your resume. Chances are they're going to find a reason that you're not worth the time to talk to, and that'll be that. Even for myself, like, I don't just cold apply to jobs for the most part. I usually am talking to a recruiter that's already reached out on LinkedIn or something like that. If you're getting your first job, you probably have a career fair or an internship fair that you can go to. So look up your university or your boot camp and figure out how you can actually talk to a real recruiter, whether that be in person or virtually. But the important thing is you talk to them, don't be a jerk, and show the reason why it would be advantageous for the company to interview you. And then from there, you're pretty golden. If for some reason you don't have the ability to go to a career fair, another option is LinkedIn, although LinkedIn is much better when you have much more experience. So when you're more of like a mid-level or senior level, that's when recruiters will start reaching out to you as opposed to you reaching out to them. But that's a bit of another story. All right, so this one is, how do you deal with 5 to 9 after your 9 to 5? I really like the way they asked that question. It's kind of hard to read. You're looking for like IC for interview, in your case, side projects. So a little bit more about what I was already talking about, but when it comes to working on like side projects and things like that, I would almost say 5 to 9 may not be the best time to work on side projects. I read, I think it's The Miracle Morning is a book. I'll leave a link in the description. But The Miracle Morning basically just talks about how you can start your day off right. And the idea is you wake up early, so let's say 5 a.m., and then you get ready, and then around like 5:30, 6 a.m., you don't have anything to do. So what do? You do whatever the heck you want. And that would be a great time to work on your side project because you have a ton of energy in the morning, ideally, after you've gotten ready and everything like that. You work on the side projects before you go to work. And then when you go to work, you work, and then you'll probably run out of energy. And then you can spend your 5 to 9 just relaxing, playing video games, watching stuff on Netflix, doing whatever. But that would be my recommendation, is work on your side projects before work. That's really the the key, because you can't control how the rest of your day is going to go, but you can control how your morning is going to start. This one is, how do you find time to work on personal projects involving code when you are coding all day at your 9 to 5? I already answered it, but I just don't want to act like I ignored it. All right, so this next question is, what do you do when you are working to solve an issue involving code but can't seem to find the solution? How do you handle the stress that comes with that, and how do you find the solution? So it's a fun question. I'm going to assume that Stack Overflow doesn't have the answer, and so when Stack Overflow doesn't have the answer, what I've found to work out pretty well is try to go to the source. Let's say the issue is a crash and you're not quite sure what's going on. Stack Overflow doesn't know what's going on. A lot of times the crash will be originating from a GitHub repository, like you're using some sort of open source project. So go to the open source project, go to the issues, and then search for all issues and just type in either the exception that you're getting or roughly the behavior that you're seeing. This works also if you're not seeing a crash, but look for the source. So a lot of times it ends up being GitHub issues. See if someone's already asked the question. A lot of times they have. And if they haven't, then you can file a issue to that project to ask what the heck is going on, give clear steps for how to reproduce it, and then make sure that you're able to be responsive in all of that. If it's not really tied to a open source project and it's not on Stack Overflow, well, now's your time to make it on Stack Overflow. So ask the question on Stack Overflow. There's a good chance that someone will come around and either say the question is a duplicate and they're going to be a jerk, or they will answer the question and then you'll have something to go off of. Aside from that, really a lot of what I do these days when I run into problems that I can't easily solve, it ends up being a lot of trial and error and a lot of debugging. So getting comfortable with different methods of how to debug, this could be an entire video on its own. If you want me to make one, leave a comment, would be happy to. But kind of like the 30-second answer to that is, with debugging, you have a couple different options. One, it's more like, I consider it more like active debugging, where you are actually setting breakpoints in code, running through the code, and then kind of changing different variables around and like watching variables to figure out what's going on with them. The other one is more passive debugging, where you are adding just logs. This is just good practice in general. Just log a bunch of data, and from there you can kind of run through, see what's going on, and then ideally you'll have a rough idea of what's happening, and you might be able to ask a better question if the answer doesn't jump out at you. The only other thing I would add is reading documentation. A lot of times the answer is in the documentation. The documentation is usually very boring to read though. So I feel you, but those are sort of the ways that I do it. Hopefully that helps. All right, so this one is, what is the most important thing someone getting into the industry can present to recruiters to get their first job? So I think I already sort of answered this a little bit, but you want to talk to the recruiter in person or virtually. Leave a good impression on them so they will remember your name. Like a lot of times if it's like a physical career fair, they'll leave a mark on your resume of like, yes, let's talk to this person, or they will put it in a stack of resumes of people they want to call back. The other option, or the other way to leave a positive impression on a recruiter, is have a lot of keywords on your resume. That's one thing they're sort of looking for, is like, how much experience do you have? If we're hiring a Android developer and we need them to know how to do GraphQL and Kotlin, having GraphQL, Kotlin, and Android on your resume are a good way of satisfying that. The other one is having just a good portfolio that is interesting to look at. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question. I think I already answered it in a previous answer, but anyway. Next question is, how do you prepare for coding interviews for your first internship? And I'll also just use this as like your first job as well. So preparing for coding interviews, if you're looking for the absolute free way of doing it, just grind leak code endlessly. And when it comes to grinding leak code, if you can look at the solution, that's a good way, honestly. Like, you don't even have to answer the question. Like, if you just look at the solution and understand how that solution is working. So a lot of it's going to be doing research into the data structure they used, doing research into the algorithm, and then sort of identifying the patterns that go into solving the problem. That is a really good first step if you are struggling with leak code. Obviously, like, you want to get to the point where you are actively able to answer leak code questions, and the gauge that I usually use is if you're answering leak code easy questions, that'll be good for just general software engineering jobs. So like if you're going to work for a big insurance company or elsewhere, that can be helpful. If you're looking to get into a tech company, then you usually want to be comfortable answering leak code medium. And then if you're looking to work at like the Googles and Metas of the world, then being somewhat comfortable with leak code hard questions is important. What I would recommend, though, if you're going to try to interview at those big companies, probably pay for leak code premium. I think it's like $150 a year, but they have specific interview prep geared towards those companies. So you can do interview prep for Google, for Meta, Twitter, maybe. I don't know, but I think they have Microsoft as one. But yeah, being able to like prep for the specific company, and given the salaries that you can make at those companies, $150 isn't that big of a deal. Granted, it is expensive, it is pricey. So if you're looking for a cheaper option that's still a little bit more guided, then Cracking the Coding Interview is a really good book. Would recommend that. I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. That would be my advice. Hope that helps. If it doesn't, leave a comment. All right, so this one is, how do you keep your head out of IT so you don't burn out? For myself, like, a lot of it is like watching TV, watching movies, playing video games. Those are sort of my go-tos. Also, creative things. So I find that, even though software engineering is a pretty creative outlet, there are like a lot of ways that you can solve the problems. It can help to just have like 100% totally creative ventures. And so this YouTube channel for me is super great. I get to edit videos. I get to set up shots. Like this, I know looks basic, but it's actually like kind of complicated to set up and get the lighting right and everything like that. Another one, photography. I really enjoy that. I used to do that a lot pre-pandemic, or maybe not a lot pre-pandemic, but I did it more than I do now. I'm hoping to get back into it just because it's fun. Another one is like knitting or doing crochet. I've known a couple engineers that have really enjoyed that. Also, we sit or stand all day. We're not really very active and moving. So trying to find hobbies that involve that. So some things would be like weightlifting is a good one, especially if you work in a stressful industry. It can be a good way to burn off stress. Running is another one, yoga, just things that really get you moving. Otherwise, like look for like classes, like do a cooking class, do a pottery class, mixology class, bunch of things. Really, I would say like the main thing to do is whatever you enjoy doing. And that is what I would do. This one is, when did you realize you were actually a senior engineer? So I'll give the very, very short version of it. Essentially, like once I was at a point when I was able to delegate work to people, and I was also like able to lead projects, when my manager was able to give me a problem and I was able to go off and solve it with limited to no direction from them, that was when I felt really comfortable as a senior engineer. So yeah, really it's a lot about like getting the autonomy, but then actually using that autonomy. Also, you're ideally someone that is able to mentor people, able to delegate work out to help get that project done. All right, so this is from the same person, but they're asking, what path should someone take if they want to be an EM, which is engineering manager? One, you need to be a good engineer to get into engineering management. You don't need to be a good engineer as an engineering manager, but you need to at least start with some really solid fundamentals, because you are going to be helping coach people in what they're doing with their career, which is sort of related to software engineering because you're an engineering manager. Really what you want to focus on are the soft skills. So part of that can be like project planning, Another part of it can be mentorship. I think it's really helpful to do like one-on-ones with just people that you work with in general. So they don't have to, like, someone doesn't have to report to you to have a one-on-one with them. You can have weekly one-on-ones, bi-weekly one-on-ones, monthly one-on-ones, just with your coworkers. It's also a good way just to have like general random conversations. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but you can just talk about work, talk about life. What helped me out a lot when I was like becoming an engineering manager was having that experience of doing one-on-ones and being able to offer just general advice and being able to mentor people. So hope that helps. All right, so next question. How many hours did you typically put in on most days as a software engineer, and how did you prioritize the work you had with the time you had available as an engineer? 40 hours. But for me, like, I mostly have worked out of an office. Maybe don't read into it too much. I also I found like 32 hours is like the sweet spot. If you don't have too many meetings going on, a lot of times you'll get the same work done in 32 hours as you probably will in 40 hours. So do with that as you will. The other part around like, how did I prioritize my work? Really business objectives. You don't get promoted for cleaning up tech debt. You get promoted for making it possible to deliver things faster, which isn't always cleaning up tech debt. It's more just like coming up with good solutions in the first place. And then also get promoted by delivering business objectives, because a lot of times when you're looking at those promotions, it's going to come down to what did this person deliver, and if they delivered nothing, it's not going to look too good. So I know this is more like, how did I prioritize my work? But I prioritized my work in a way that would help me move up in my career. So that's how I prioritize it. Business objectives first, and then figuring out how to fit technical initiatives in there. I could do an entire video just on that subject alone. So again, comment below. Happy to make that video at some point in time. All right, so next question. What does it really mean to be a senior engineer? I answered it a couple minutes ago, but I mean, you didn't know that. You just knew it now. So, but wanted to make sure I at least read your question. But next one is, how do I go about job negotiations, raises, bonuses, RSUs, etc.? Something I have yet to encounter and have no idea on how to go about in a professional setting. So this could be an entire video or an entire video series really. But what I would say with job negotiations, don't tell them how much money you want right out the gate. That's one. If you're getting a new job, don't disclose how much money you want to make. There are ways of not answering questions about money in a very positive manner. So that would be number one. Don't tell a recruiter how much money you want. If you're more thinking about a raise, making sure that you're fitting those conversations into a timeline that makes sense. So don't do it the day before you're getting your performance review or the day of your performance review. A lot of times that's a little bit too late. If you can give your manager a heads up, like, hey, I've been doing a lot of work, XYZ, give examples, and say, I'm making, $120,000 right now. I think given my contributions to the team, I'm bringing at least $130,000 of value to the company, something like that. I found that if you're very straightforward and honest with your manager, and you have a good manager, they're going to advocate for you because, one, it's not their money. Two, they don't want to go and find your replacement. And so if another $10,000 will make you happier, there's a chance that'll happen. I can't guarantee it, just because it's probably not even up to your manager a lot of times. A lot of times it'll be up to finance and other departments, but be straightforward with your manager, give them reasons why you think you're worth the raise, and then just trust that they're going to do their best to get you that raise. And if you're not happy with it, find a new job. A lot of times you can get 20% or more just by finding a new job and by doing the negotiations correctly. So again, though, this could be an entire video. Let me know in the comments below if you want that. I can make it. So this one is, what made you transition from an IC to an engineering manager? For me, it was just I wanted to do something new. I've been an Android engineer, or I've been working with Android since 2011, and it's just gotten boring. Like, so I really wanted to do something new, and I know that I enjoy working with people. I know I enjoy mentoring people, and this was sort of an opportunity to really just focus on how do you lead people day to day. Up until then, like when I was a staff engineer, I was leading people, but it was also like I was leading people 30% of my day, and then 70% of my day was still just coding. Whereas now, it's more like I'm helping to lead people 90% of my day, and then 10% of my day is coding. If that. A lot of the days, it's 0% of my day is coding. So that's really what I was looking for. I think, too, like, if engineering management isn't for me, this is still really good experience that will help me ideally break past the plateau of staff engineer and move up into, I guess, principal engineer. Like, I don't really see staff to senior staff engineer being much of a plateau, but like going from staff to principal engineer, like that is much more of a plateau that requires a lot. So I think if anything, like this is going to help me whether I want to become a director or whether I want to move back into being a software engineer full-time. When you're already working full-time, how do you prep an interview for jobs? It's like a second full-time job. And then another person chimed in, add a toddler to the mix. Another person chimed in, like married with 2 kids and a dog. When you're prepping for an interview, it can be a lot of work. It is a second job in itself. So what I try to do when I'm looking to interview and looking to go elsewhere, one, if I can interview without having to prep, that's golden. So what this has looked like for me in the past is I'm not trying to like level up in terms of what company I'm going to. I'm looking more for like a lateral move to a company. So an example might be like if you're working at Allstate, maybe you're looking to switch over to State Farm. Probably don't have to prep too much. If you're at Allstate and then you're looking to go work for, let's say, DoorDash or an early stage startup, probably you're going to have to prep and do some interview prep there. So that would be number one. If you actually have to prep, what I've found to work is, one, do it when you have the energy, which would be kind of going back to an earlier answer, but if you are able to wake up early in the morning, do your interview prep in the morning, so answering leak code questions, that works. Doing it later on at night when you have more energy, that can work as well. You might not be able to fall asleep, so I would almost discourage that. Like, if you can, really try to wake up early, just because it'll mess with your sleep much less than if you are coding up until the point that you're ready to go to bed. Another one is giving yourself enough lead time. So if you start preparing for an interview when you have the interview, that's way too late. Ideally, you're starting to prep for interviews a couple months ahead of time. And so another thing that can look like is during your lunch break at work, do some leak code. If you have some downtime at work, do some leak code. I sound like a broken record, but that's going to be really the best way to prep for an interview. The other options are like finding that information. So like cracking the coding interview, and I kind of already went through a lot of this, so I don't want to repeat myself, but yeah, just trying to find those bits and pieces of time in your day where you can actually have like 30 minutes to an hour to work on that prep. No matter how busy you are, there's a chance that you do have that time. Even if it's, let's say, 1 hour a day, figure out how much time you're going to need. So like if you need 40 hours total, it's going to take you 40 days to prep. So just try to reverse engineer it. Hope this helps. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. It's much more of a different video. A lot of times these videos are scripted and like I've already done a lot of research and I just know exactly what I'm going to say. It was much more off the cuff. If you would like to ask a question in the future and be on a video like this, go ahead, join our Discord community. Link to that is in the description below. It's in every description of every video. And if you are not subscribed already, be sure to subscribe. Click the notification bell, just so you're notified when I make other videos. Hopefully the next one will be a formal software salary video. Fingers crossed that I have the energy to do that. But anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate you. And until next time.